We're back on The Big Show. It's Alex Belfield talking to the big stars, and there's always people that I like to meet, and I put requests in, and I keep my fingers crossed that they're going to say yes, and Mica Paris did. How are you?
Oh, I'm all right, darling. Nice to meet you. Thanks.
There's something I love about you. Well, there's two things, actually. There's your look, and then there's your voice. God, you're talented.
Oh, me? What do I say to that? It's really sweet that you say that, but it makes me go, where's the shovel, and let me just start digging.
You've got it, and I'll tell you why. You can just sing. You're not trained. You haven't got one of those West End voices or a classical voice. It's just so soulful and natural and God-given. Do you agree?
Yeah, well, I have to agree because, well, my grandparents, who are ministers, they found out I could sing when I was about 5 in church. And you know how the Caribbean people are. You know, the minute they found out I could sing, my grandmother was like my agent. She took me around every church in England and she'd go, listen to my granddaughter. It was that. So it was just something they knew I had. I think I was singing Rupert the Bear at the time. And my grandmother was like, listen to that. She's got a vibrato. What's going on in there? You know, and it was, so it's always been there. And to be honest with you, I kind of fear it sometimes. You know, I'm quite nervous about my talent because I don't know how it's there. It just was always there. And you never know when it's not going to be there. So you're always like going, I hope it's going to be there today. The problem I've had is finding great material. That's the problem I've had. And I found the great material in the beginning when I did my first album. I found these amazing guys in Marlow and they wrote Breathe Life Into Me on a demo, and I heard it, and immediately I said to the people at Island Records, I said, please get these guys, I want them to do the album. And then we went in the studio and we stayed in the studio for about 8 months, and at the end of that they wrote my One Temptation. So I had never got that team again, you see, and that's the reason why I've suffered so many years for material, because it's very hard to find great writers. It's just tough.
And of course, we look at your beginnings and you mentioned the word gospel and church. And of course, that sums up what you are. And when I look at the title of this album, it really sums up how you seem to be feeling right now and the type of music within it, Born Again. Absolutely.
It's really funny because a lot of people think it's a gospel album and it's not really a gospel album, but you could take it if you wanted to be that. It's basically, the album is like a journey of all the stuff I've been through. I've been through absolute up and down. For 20 years, it's been up and down, up and down. It's just roller coaster. And I think there was a point after 10 years of not having a record deal and no one wanted to sign me, and I just sort of drifted into radio. And because that was where I was getting the love. I was getting the love from radio and I was getting love from TV. So I thought, well, if the record industry doesn't want me, I better just leave them alone then. And that's what happened. So for 10 years, no one wanted to touch me musically. So I was sad about it. But I'm very funny in that way that if I feel that I'm rejected, I don't go and force myself on things or people or anything. I just stay away from it. So I think in my heart, you know, I wondered if I was ever going to make music again. I mean, even when I was on set, I'd have the contributors on the program going, Mish, we really miss your music. And I was having them say that all the time. And I was going, well, maybe one day I might be able to make a record again. And it was very frustrating. It's not nice not being able to do the thing that you're passionate about. But then again, had I not had that time out, I don't think I would be so excited about the music now. See what I mean? Because this album is like, for me, it's like a renewal. Going in the studio, I was terrified. I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do. But I got in there and I felt like I was 17 again, releasing my first record. That's how it feels for me now. So that's why it's so apt, the title being Born Again. It just makes sense.
The title track made me sad in places and made the hair stand up on the back of the neck because it's incredibly raw, isn't it?
Yes, it's very raw. Baby Come Back Now it kind of reminds me of the Deep South, you know, when you're in the Deep South and you're just on the porch and you've got the musicians sitting in the, you know, outside and jamming away. But, you know, how many people have had relationships and it's gone pear-shaped, and you know, you're sat there, you know the guy's wrong and you know it ain't right, but you still want him to come back, don't you? And it's that kind of thing. So all the songs reflect exactly what's happened to me over the last 20 years.
It's not always the guy that's wrong, it's sometimes a lady.
I can only speak from my perspective. I didn't say he was wrong. I didn't say he was wrong, but he was. But but you know what I mean? In all relationships we have that, you know, and you know, it doesn't matter if it goes really pear-shaped and stuff like that. There's always that desire to try and make it right. So all the songs are very much speaking from what's happened to me.
And again, with Nothing But the Truth, it made me wonder whether I could be that honest. I don't think I could.
Such a great song, that, I gotta tell you. When I heard that song, the first time I heard that song, I just cried buckets. I was like, I was a mess. because the lyrics just spoke to me, because that's the industry. The industry we're in, everyone looks gorgeous, everyone looks nice, and they're all lying through their teeth. And do you know, it took me years to find that out. I was so green when I first started, you have no idea. Well, you imagine, you come from Lewisham Girls' School, you go, you sign your record deal, and then you've got the driver outside, and you've got the bodyguards, and the record's in the chart, and it's all going off. I had no time to find out who was cool and who wasn't cool. It took me years to work it all out. So Nothing But the Truth is really an important song in terms of my experience in the music business.
We were only talking about that exact same thing before the interview, that it must be very hard, today more than ever, where they're given everything for 2 minutes, and the second that they're not making 100% profit, they're gone. It's very cruel, and I don't know how you ever come back from that. How do you go from being a big star 1 minute with the limos, working in a factory the next?
Babe, I've got to say, I think my view has always been the same. I've always said that I think a lot of these children are going to end up in the Priory. They're going to end up, with psychiatrists and things like that, because it's just not normal. The brain can't really take it. I can tell you from experience, when I first came from Lewisham Girls into record land and, had all the hype and everything going on, I sat in my apartment one day and I remember thinking, I was in Hackney. My first flat was in Hackney, and I was sat in my flat and I had like 30 people outside my flat going, Mica, screaming, and I sat in my apartment going, I can't cope with this. This is just, can you imagine? It's like you're having an out-of-body experience. It's too unreal. Do you know what I mean? You can't actually cope with it. You can't cope with the fact that everybody's telling you you're the greatest when you were just normal before that. It's a real head rush. So when you see Amy and you see Brittany and you see all these kids going through this stuff, understand it. It's a real... It messes your head up. It really does.
Where's the good line then? Where is it okay up to that point? And then when do you mayday and leave the business?
I'll tell you how it works. How can I put it to you in it? Because that's a beautiful question. And I have to say, not many people ask questions like that, so you're very good. What happens is you kind of get to that peak, yeah? And I think it's at that point when you're peaking, I think that you should take a break. You should take a break and go and be normal. Just have a bit of a normal life, take time out, process it. Live a bit, have a kid, get married, I don't know, just do something normal and get away from it. It keeps you balanced, And I think as well, it's nice when you have 2 or 3 years in between each record, because then you have something to talk about. If you just churn it out, what are you going to churn out? Yeah, the hotel room had a few more pictures than the last one. There's nothing to talk about. So I personally feel, to keep the equilibrium in oneself, I think it's better to, at the peak of your success and fame, is to just take time out and give everyone a bit of a break from seeing you. Don't milk it. I'm not.
Is it the managers then around these people that are so fearful that when they decide to come back, nobody will want them and therefore they won't be able to make any money? That they say yes to everything and keep them going and going and going and get them on everything and sign every book and bring out every toy that they can to make as much money as possible?
Absolutely. And I think that sometimes it is that. I can't speak for everybody. I do think that there is that fear as well. When someone's been in the business quite a long time as well, you do get that fear. Like I always say that when people make it later, they get more desperate sometimes to hold on to it, so they overkill it. But I don't think you need to worry about that. I still go back to the days when artists were mysterious, They had a bit of mystique, and you would sit down and you would go, I wonder what they're doing. But now what you're seeing is, this is something I'll never become, by the way. Okay, I'll never be one of these people you see with a Coca-Cola can. Misha's got her fragrance. Misha has this. No, I will only do things that I'm passionate about. I love clothes. I'm passionate about clothes. I'm passionate about helping women believe in themselves. So it will always be stuff like that, but it will never be me just like being sold on a tin or something. I've been offered things like that and I just can't. I can't do it. This is where I really don't. I think that at some point you kind of lose the artist. When the artist is being seen to just always be sold on a counter somewhere, you stop thinking of them as an artist, don't you?
So it's an integrity thing then. It's when you turn down the check to maintain your product.
Absolutely. I really believe in that. And this is why I had such a hard time in the industry in the beginning, because they wanted me to just keep making the same album. And I kept going, no, I want to grow as an artist. I want to grow. And they were like, no, we want the same album every year. I was like, ah! So that's why, it didn't work out well for me in the beginning.
In our remaining moments, I want to cover a few things because you've done so much recently, like radio, and you mentioned it earlier, and it's brilliant. Your voice just seems to work on the radio. I'm not surprised that they were gagging for you from the beginning because there aren't many people who can talk naturally and come across with warmth, and you always did right from the start.
I don't know, I got to tell you something. You think that's, it's funny you said that because I think that's hilarious that you said that because I remember the first time I did the show, for Radio 2. I said to my sister, I can't do Radio 2. I'm a singer. I don't do radio. And she says, just do it. So I did the first show and I sounded really rubbish because of what happened was I was trying to sound really posh and not South London. I was trying to give it, this week we're going to have Mary J. Blige. So my sister called up and she said, Mish, what are you doing? What are you doing? Just be yourself. You sound like an idiot. And, thank God she told me that. And I went back in and I started being myself. And then Leslie, our old boss, came and said to me, Misha, we love your show. Could you stay? And I ended up staying for 5 years. So it was fantastic.
Well, I think with TV you can fake it because you can edit it, but radio's really raw, isn't it? There's nothing else to judge on other than the words you use.
You're so naked. It's incredible how radio is. You're absolutely right. I learnt so much on there, and I would always love to do it again. Because number one, you don't have to look good. You can look crap.
Hello, welcome to my life.
You look good, by the way. You look very good. So don't even go there. But you know what I mean. You can really relax on it, and there's simply no pretentiousness on radio. That's what I loved about it, and I'll always be open to it. I'm just waiting for someone to offer me a show again because I'd do it in a minute. I loved it.
Let me work on that for you. I'll be your agent for radio.
Thank you.
Mica Paris, lovely to talk to you. You've got this great new album out. It's called Born Again. If you want to be moved and you want to be touched and you want to hear somebody who isn't over-processed and over-studioized, if you know what I mean,
absolutely,
this is the album for you. Born Again's in the stores now. Mica Paris is the artist. And thank you so much for talking to me.
You're really sweet. Thank you very much. And thanks for asking questions that most guys don't ask, all right?